when half the country objectively like hates you and your family, you kind of just have to like let things go. Like when people say things to me, it's like, okay, well, that's how you feel. And I know who I am. And I'm going to stick to that because like that's a reflection of you, not me. So that confidence has been like a very, very special thing to like see grow within myself.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Do I Know You, which is the only talk show in the entire world which interviews siblings and children of celebrities just through the lens of celebrating identity. My name is Jordierae, and I'm your host. Could not be more thrilled that you're here. So y'all, I started this show because my brother's a celebrity athlete. His name is Draymond Green. He plays for the Golden State Warriors. And I had a really interesting time growing up. I didn't necessarily know how to support him, how to find my own lane. It was just a weird thing. There's no manual. And so I really started the show to create space for all of us to just really connect about what it looks like to claim your identity. And I found that the best way to do this for me was to connect with people in similar positions. So that is why we're here. I'm not really sure there's a word that encapsulates how honored and absolutely thrilled I am for this interview. This is beyond my wildest dreams, and there's a very funny story behind how this interview happened, which we will get into. But today, our esteemed guest is the one and only Hope Walz. Hope is an absolutely beautiful woman with a heart of gold, and she is just like everything and more. I'm so excited for y'all to meet her. You probably recognize her last name. I think all of the world recognizes her last name, as she has had one of the craziest past years in history. Her father is Governor Tim Walz, who ran for vice president with Vice President Kamala Harris. And her mom, which I feel like we have to talk about her mom, is Gwen Walz, the amazing First Lady of Minnesota. I could not be more excited to have her on this platform. I think that she has such a unique perspective. She's so grounded in humanity and just has such a love for people, which you guys will totally see immediately. There is so much to get into, and I'm not going to waste time in an intro. So for the very first time in a public interview, meet Hope Walz. Hope, welcome to Do I Know You. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. You are that girl. You are a star. I feel like we're going to have such a good time. How are you doing? Like it's a Saturday morning.
We're good. Yeah, it's kind of a gloomy day where I'm at, but we're good. I went to like a fun like market this morning where there's like a whole bunch of like local artists. I got these earrings.
Oh my gosh.
It's sea glass, which is cool. So
that's amazing.
I'm good. Whenever I get new jewelry, I'm like, this is the best day ever.
Wait, honestly, I had to stop. So I live in Chicago, and I had to chill out with these markets because I was spending $50 on a candle, and that just felt outrageous.
Yep. Same. I'm like, I can go to like one every like 3 months now. So.
I know. Well, it's the end of the year. It's what you deserve. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I just want to tell the audience for a second. So the way that this interview came about is so funny. So I feel like we should talk about it. So I saw Hope is on TikTok. Thank God. We needed, at the time when our country needed it most, she entered on TikTok. So then I'm like, okay, I'm obsessed with her. I make a video not thinking, honestly, I was like, I'm not sure if she'll see it, but I'm in this whole like shoot your shot era in my personal life. Shout out to my therapist. So I was like, okay, let me just make this video. We'll see. Literally 2 hours later, my phone's blowing up. They're tagging Hope, and I'm like, oh no, this girl's gonna hate me because I know how it is getting all these notifications. So I'm like, oh no, I feel so bad. And then you were kind enough to say yes to a stranger on the internet. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited. It's like such a fun thing. It was super early on. I think I posted my first video like a couple days after the election, and like it was immediate. And I'm like, yeah, might as well. Like I'm kind of just in my like saying yes to everything, but like this was one that is very like I saw it and I looked at all that you're about, and I'm like, this is one that's important.
You're so sweet, Hope. Well, let's get into it. Okay, we have a lot to talk about. The beginning feels like a good place to start. So I want to know, big question, but who is Hope Walz? Like, who are you to you? Not who are you to other people, to strangers, but who are you to, yourself?
Yeah, so still figuring it out, as I'm sure like everyone is, and I'm sure I will be figuring it out until the day I die. And also I'm like very much at a crossroads of like what I'm doing, who I believe I am, who I want to be. a lot of it just due to the fact that I'm like a year out of college now and like thinking I want to go to grad school, but I'm also like happy doing what I'm doing now. And then obviously like my life flipped upside down in August. And like there's all of like those dynamics. I think like the short answer for me would be like I'm just a girl because I'm chronically online here. Um yeah, right.
Cue the
But
song.
like
I'm just a girl in a
yeah,
world.
yeah. Yes.
Yes.
But like really that's kind of how I portray myself and how like I see myself. I think after the past couple months and just like with even like blowing up on TikTok, but just like being more on the national stage, like people create this persona. And I'm just like who I've always been and like it's all kind of like a shock. But like for myself, I'm like I'm, you know, a sister, I'm a cousin, I'm a daughter. And there was a period of time where I'm like I am Tim Walz's daughter and like that's all I thought I was. And it
Mhm.
took me like moving away to a state 1,000 miles from my house like in Minnesota to really start to like figure that out.
Wow.
And I'm like still very much in the process. I
Mm.
I know that like I very much care about this is like kind of sounds dumb, but like people, like I love working with people and in communities.
Mm.
Um and like that's where my passion lies. And so I'm just kind of starting to like figure out who I am in my own space still.
If that's you still figuring it out, I must do an emergency session with my therapist because that feels pretty formed, sis. Like, but I totally feel you. All of this is stuff that I want to hit. And it's funny you say it doesn't sound dumb at all that you have a passion for people. In the intro I recorded for you before this, I was like, I literally said Hope has such a big heart for people. So I think that's just shining through everything you do. So,
Well,
okay,
thank
let's get
you.
into all this. How did you grow up? What did your childhood, early teenage years look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, so I grew up in a town, it was like I want to say 50-ish thousand in Minnesota. So like not a big city whatsoever.
Okay.
There was like all I like to say there was all sorts of white people, like in the very diverse group of white people. Of course, like there was others, but like that's kind of how I would describe it.
Yes.
Um and it was very when you think of like Midwest like childhood, that's what it was. Like I lived in the same house until essentially I graduated. We
Okay.
moved like a couple months before I graduated. My cousins lived down the street from me, and so we were
Wow.
always and they're like around my same age. So we were always running around. My principal at the high school I went to was our neighbor. Like it
Okay.
was very like quintessential, like this is Midwest. I remember like my brother and I had a little green like gator, like one of those Barbie cars that we'd like drive around the neighborhood. Like everyone knew everyone. It was like just a very big community there. Everyone kind of took care of each other.
Yeah.
And it was just super typical. My dad was in Congress from
Dang.
the time I was in kindergarten to the time I was a senior in high school, actually. So, like, a couple times a year, I'd like fly to DC and like do all these like kind of wild things. But then I'd come home and it would be like completely normal. And I'd go to soccer practice. I played
Mm.
competitive soccer and like that was a big part of my life. And I would go to the football games and like paint my face red or like whatever it was. Our colors were red and white. I think I did like stripes. I think
Of
that was my
course.
thing.
Cool
Or
spirit.
like the sparkles or like whatever it may be. Like that I was
Yeah.
just like typical Midwest teenager. And it was
Mm.
super important for, like to my parents that my brother and I grew up as like normal as possible.
Right.
Um, and like talking to my other like friends from the Midwest, it honestly was kind of just like in line with everything they experienced. There was
Mm.
obviously, you know, different things with my dad in the position he was, but like I got to feel very normal and that was important to me.
That's amazing. And I totally see that like groundedness in you. And I assumed it was based on how you grew up. I also grew up in
Yeah.
the Midwest. Midwest princess. I am forever down for the Midwest. Like I think growing up
Yes.
in the Midwest, having a Chili's in the backyard, like I will always choose an Olive Garden over a Michelin star. Like I just feel like
Yeah.
it's such a unique experience, honestly.
We'd go to Perkins after the football game, like that was our thing. And I loved it.
It's
I'm
so
like, maybe
good.
I want to raise my kids there because it is just such like a grounding place to grow up and the people are amazing. Like I will
Yes.
ride for Minneapolis forever. It's like wonderful city.
Okay, so my best friend just moved there, and I went up there for a Warriors Timberwolves game last year, and I
Nice.
was only there for like less than 24 hours, and I was like, these are the kindest people, to the point where at the games, like, normally at a game they like boo the opposing team or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
they were not even doing that. Like, everyone was just
Yeah.
really kind. It was crazy.
Yes. Genuinely. And like the food scene is great. Like there's a lot of great
Mhm.
culture. I think when you think of the Midwest, it is like very white. But like when you get into those cities, like Chicago might be my favorite city in the country. When I was there for the DNC, I'm like, oh my God, I love it here.
Yes, it's amazing. It's
Yes,
literally so amazing. And to your point, like, I mean, that's a whole other conversation we could have about like race and growing up around whiteness. But as you grow up, just really recognizing like and appreciating the Midwest for what it is. Like, it doesn't try to
totally.
be anything else.
Yeah.
And I love that. So, you said that your dad is in Congress since you were in kindergarten. So, really, that's all you've known. So, there was no sense of like, okay, I have this like normal life, and then all of a sudden it flipped, right? I mean, until this movie
Yeah.
maybe, but growing up, it wasn't like
Yes. Yep, that was kind of just my normal, and even more so for my brother. He was born like 3 weeks before my dad first was elected. So like
that. Okay.
it's kind of just it was our normal. And we just made it work and took advantage of what we could and dealt with the tough things as people do with everything.
With every situation, I love that. So, what was it like? I mean, obviously, giving for me, it's different, right? Like, my brother's in the public eye, but it's for basketball. I think it's different. I know it's different
Yeah.
when your parents in the spotlight for being a public servant. And obviously, he's done this for a lot of his life. What was it like for you? What were the trade offs of kind of sharing your dad with the country?
Yeah, I think like first and foremost, it was excitement because I've seen him and like the work he's done since, I was born before he was in Congress, even he was a teacher. So like that's
Right.
kind of just like been his thing. And it was kind of just a moment of like I'm so excited that the rest of the country gets to see who he is and like what he can bring to the national stage.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of Minnesotans would say the same thing. They're like,
Mhm.
we are really sad that he may be leaving, but like it's exciting to be able to share him because
Mhm.
I mean, I believe that like he's different than a lot of what we see. Um and it felt just me as like a young woman that's like kind of interested in this. It's like it's nice to see like a normal person who just genuinely like wants to make other people's lives better. And again, some people will disagree with that, but like that's what I believe at my core. And it was more so just like a it was exciting and like I was just so proud of him.
Mhm.
um and obviously like I was like, where's this gonna go, right? But like initially I'm like, it was just a big I was just so proud. Like I don't
Yeah.
really have another way to put it.
I want to get more into that, but before we do, I also want to talk about your mom because she
Yes.
is like amazing. I mean, but just from watching
Yes.
her, I was like, she just seems absolutely incredible. So tell
Yeah.
me about, maybe what's a favorite lesson that you've been able to like pull from her just by watching her live her life?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, like I've known just like how amazing she is since I was younger. And like, even when my dad first decided to run, like there were moments where like maybe mom should be running. Just because she just gets stuff done. Like if you talk to anybody in her life, she's like the most organized person I've ever seen. That woman's planner is like it's insane. I can't even like keep a planner, and hers is like color coded, like the whole thing.
Oh, is she digital
Um,
planner or written planner?
written
Okay, wow.
written.
She's very
And she
for real.
buys like the same one every year. And she made me get it when I went to college, and then she gave up after like a year because I
Yeah.
just don't have that brain. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, and like my dad was commuting back and forth from DC, like
Mhm.
when he was in Congress from when I was in kindergarten to my senior
Mhm.
year. And so I saw her do legitimately everything. She had her job, and then she had my brother and and then I was, playing soccer. And I'm sure, like the competitive sports thing. Like I was traveling all over the place, and she was always there, never missed a game. And at her core, like she's a teacher. So every day before I'd go to school, she'd be like, good friend, good learner. And that's like something I tell myself like every morning, just to like set myself up to like be the person that I need to be for those around me and myself.
Mm.
But yeah, she's amazing. And it was really special to see her kind of get out there and have her own platform and have
Mm.
people start to like see and appreciate her. It felt like, to me, it was like finally like they get to see how amazing she is.
Yeah.
Um, and I think just having like those strong spouses out there is important because it's not
Mhm.
just one person. It's like a whole, it's the whole team, it's the whole village.
It's totally the village. I love that you shared that about her. I think that's so sweet, and it makes me think about every like Michelle Obama interview. Two things: one, how people are like, should she have run? Question mark. And then
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
which too, it's like, she always talks about like, it stop saying like, my husband ran. Like, we all ran as a family.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, it's all of us or none of us. And so that's
Hmm.
so amazing that she was just able to hold it down in such
Yeah.
a such an amazing way. Cause I didn't realize your dad was commuting like for all those years from DC to DC.
Yeah, we never moved to DC. That was like kind of a part of their thing. They wanted to keep things as normal for us as possible.
Yeah.
And there was a great public school system in our hometown. So they're like, we're going to stay and Tim will just go back and forth, which it
Yeah.
worked out for us. It obviously would not work for a lot of people, but
Right, right. It worked for you, and that's all that matters.
yep.
So tell me about, how did this like heart for other people come about? I mean, it sounds like you were raised in a way where you obviously valued others and saw others for
Yeah.
who they were, but I know you do so much community work now too.
Yeah, I think like a lot of it was just how I was raised. Like my parents were teachers, and then when my mom left teaching, she was still working in the school district. And then my dad was in Congress, and like all of those things, I didn't really know any differently. Like it was always just like this lens of public service. And my parents would say the same thing. Like that's what they feel called to do. And I think when that's all you see, that's kind of like what your options are.
Yeah.
Um, and like I just know now that every job is incredibly important, but I would not feel fulfilled doing something that I didn't feel like was contributing to my community.
Mm,
Um, and I think like that's just because I saw that in my
right.
parents, and
Yeah.
like everything that they've done has been to, better the community, whether it's been the right decision or the wrong one.
Mm,
Um, so it really is like all I've known. And it's just been cool the past couple years as I've kind of like found my spaces for that.
mm,
Because there's, everyone's like, I want to make change. And having that big, like grandiose ideal is awesome. And it's taken me like a long time to really like get into the nitty gritty. But now
mm.
that I've kind of found the direction I somewhat want to go. I'm sure that'll change like a million times. It's just even more motivating because you see all of those spaces that can get better and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. And it grows and grows every day.
Oh, that's so beautiful. What are those spaces for you? What are those directions?
Yeah. So my degree was in criminology. And
Period.
then, yes. And then as I say, like, I very much fit the stereotype. My minor was in women, gender, and sexuality studies,
Of
which
course.
I'm happy to fit that stereotype, honestly.
Yes.
Like, that's
That's
great.
amazing. That's the best stereotype to fit, honestly. So
Yes.
yes.
Yes. And then now I work at a shelter. We call a warming center. That has been in the news a little bit lately, but it's like year round. Um, and
Oh.
so like it's a shelter for the unhoused. And I do the overnights there,
Oh wow.
which I love for like a whole host of reasons. And then
Mm.
I think I'm kind of feeling like I'm ready for grad school, which is like crazy to think about. And I'm thinking I'll go in the direction of social work or just like sociology in general, maybe public
Mm.
policy. We'll see.
Oh,
So, like,
period.
yeah. And so I'm still like kind of figuring out exactly where I want to go, but like I do very much have a passion for like housing and housing our people and providing resources from the very beginning so people don't end up unhoused to begin with.
Yes.
And that's been like a really great and motivating space for me the past couple years.
That is so amazing, Hope. I am so inspired by that. I did this is going to sound really embarrassing after you just shared what you did, or what you do, but I
No,
was a
no.
consultant. Hold on one second. I was a consultant and it was what it was, but it's over now. Thank you, Jesus. But the whole point in saying this is I did some work on like recidivism, and I just learned
Yeah.
like so much about the unhoused population and how it relates to like recidivism and like prison and reentry.
Absolutely.
And I just think it's so, we're kind of going on a tangent here, but it's so insane to me how so many people in society think that they're like not like more than one decision away or one thing happening to them away
Yeah.
from being unhoused. And so I love that you have that heart for the
Yeah.
community.
I always say we're closer to being unhoused than we are to being the Elon Musks of the world.
Wow. Yeah.
And like, I think people have a hard time thinking like that because obviously that's like for many people, for almost all people, like being unhoused is a nightmare situation.
Mm.
But like you said, we're all like one thing away from that.
Yes, yes. And you know how many things away you are from Elon Musk. So, and I feel like
Yeah.
we saw that play out in the election. So, we should talk about the campaign trail. Okay. You
Yeah.
are maybe one of like what, 10 living children? I don't even know in the entire world who's
Yeah.
experienced this. 10 might be
Yeah.
high. So, I just want to know, talk us through the moment when your dad was chosen to be on the ticket to everything after. Like, what was
Yeah.
that like? What happened? As much as you want to share.
Yeah, I'll even take a step back to Veep steaks. I
Perfect.
was in where I live now with strep throat, like doom scrolling for like a week. Like, what's going to happen? I don't know. Like, going through whatever processes you have to go through. But then I finally start feeling better. And the day before, I think it was a Monday, because I think we got called on Tuesday. My parents called me and they're like, we don't know what's going to happen, but it might, like, there's a fair chance that it is going to be us. So you should fly home. I'm like, okay, I'll book a ticket. So I like, and I live in a town where it's like not a large airport. So I
Mhm.
like book a flight for like 5 hours later. I have to fly to San Francisco and then from San Francisco up to Minneapolis. And I'm just like, okay, this is great. Like sitting in the middle seat, just like, okay, we'll see. To me, it was like, okay, well, it'll be nice to be home regardless. I'll see my dog. And then we get in at midnight, and my mom's like, okay, we got you a bunch of clothes just in case. Go try them on. So I'm like trying on hideous dresses that I'm like, I don't think I can ever wear these, but I'm like, I guess if that's my option, I'll wear them. And then the next morning we wake up. So this is like a fever dream for all of us. We're like, okay, well, let's just make the most of it. This is awesome. I think I'll look back on it for years and be like, was this even real or like, was this a dream? And then
Mm.
obviously we get to Philly and my dad's like practicing on the teleprompter for the first time ever. And we're just like sitting in the room and we're like, okay, like we'll see. Then we all get ready and like, I don't even remember what university we were at, but we're like in their basketball locker room and we're all like as a family getting ready in the locker room, which actually is very fitting for coach. But
It is.
yes, but it really is just like a swept away feeling. And honestly, like it didn't stop until Secret Service dropped us off after the election. And so it was just like 3 months of like they tell you where to go and you just do it. And I was lucky enough to be able to travel with my dad.
Mm.
Um, we made that decision just kind of as a family. He liked having me around and obviously still does, but he made it a priority to have me around just to like keep things somewhat normal.
Mm.
Um, and I was able to like help. They're like, okay, here's a mic, put it on him, or okay, here's his Diet Mountain Dew for after like he's done and you're in the car, like that sort of thing. Which I hope it made things easier for everyone. But it really was just it was a special 3 months. We were just traveling around the country. Like I like to say we were spending time with the best of America. Um, in like all of these swing states and like having meaningful conversations. And I don't like it's obviously very sad how it ended. But like I come out of it like a completely changed person. Like I have a totally different viewpoint on like progress and like what it takes to get things done. And like that's you can't put a price tag on it.
Like, I feel like I'm in a whirlwind hearing this story. There's so much here. I saw a picture of you, like holding your stuff in like a brown paper bag, and you were saying like there was no time to even like pack a bag.
Yes. Yep. That was the first week. And we went to, I think the bag was from a store in Eau Claire that we got shopping with Bon Iver, if you know who that is.
Classic.
They're like
Yeah,
a
love
great
Bonnie
band.
Bear.
So, and I'm just like putting my sweatshirts in there, like just, making it work. And I think like the day after that photo, we were in Phoenix and my cousin is like living there. And I'm like, okay, you got to go get me like a duffel bag. Just get it and bring it to me. And so I did get a different bag, but it was like very much just like figuring it out as you go. Um, which
Wow.
like is also like a cool learning experience. Now I'm like, okay, well, I could do anything. Honestly, I made it work.
You could literally do anything at a drop of a hat. That is so amazing. I want to touch on, so you said that you have a totally different view of progress now. What was that view maybe when you went into this whirlwind of a season, and what is it now?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people, like at that point of the summer, I was like feeling pretty cynical about like just about everything. Like I'm like, this sucks, honestly. Like we're headed in like a pretty scary direction. Um, and then after like being on the trail and meeting all of these people and having these conversations and just like seeing these interactions that these people had with my dad and like all the emotion, um I'm honestly feeling more hopeful. And this is something that like the VP told me that like has will stick with me. She's like, the work we did and the groundwork we laid like is, it's important and it matters and it's going to make a difference in the future. I think a lot of people after the election especially were just feeling like there's nothing that can be done. Um, and like everything was a waste. And I couldn't feel farther from that. I'm like, it's obviously very sad that what happened, but like the things and the progress that was made during those, 100 days that she had, like is immense and it does matter and it will matter in the next 4 years and beyond.
Ugh. Preach, preach, preach. It is so insane that it was 100 days. Like, I think
Yeah.
I am constantly reminding myself of that. I mean, as a Black woman, I felt like I had so much hope and, just like excitement. And then I felt like seeing you and your family, it was like, oh, normalcy, like this exists. I'm sure
Yeah.
this is something you heard over and over and over. Do you
Hmm.
have a favorite moment from the trail? Maybe just like meeting people in, all cities and towns and everywhere in America.
Yeah, I think my dad would honestly say the same thing. We went to a rally in Ann Arbor with the VP, Ann Arbor, Michigan. Um, and I won't even guess on the number because I don't want to get it wrong, but there was like thousands upon thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of people there. And Maggie Rogers was performing, who's one of my favorites. And so I got to like sit right by the stage and watch Maggie Rogers. And then after she came off, and it was like my dad and Maggie Rogers and me, and just like having that moment, just it made everything kind of feel real. And it was also like just super special. Um, there's probably a video on his TikTok where like I'm meeting her and he knows I love her and he's like, okay, let me take a picture of you two.
Oh,
And he's like taking the photo of us. And it's just like, through it all, this was like a week or two before the election. Like through it all, he is like still a dad.
mm,
And like it was just a like, okay, we're gonna be okay. And
mm.
super special. I will always like hold that memory.
I stan Maggie Rogers.
Yes.
I am so jealous. Do you have a favorite song? It's hard, but
Oh, that's hard. I'm
top
not
three.
even gonna say it because it's hard. But that like video with her and Pharrell is
Yes,
like it's like my
you watch
Roman
that?
Empire. I
Yes.
watch it like weekly. It's so good.
That's so funny. I am obsessed with that video. I know exactly what you're
Yes.
talking about. That is
Yes.
so amazing. What was it like? I mean, obviously you and your dad and both your parents. I mean, it seems like you all had a close bond before, but how do you feel like you all were able to strengthen your relationship just day in and day out, just campaigning?
Yeah. Like obviously there's like hard moments through it all. And like it was super hard. Like the night of the election, I had like decided I was going to bed when things weren't looking good. And like I remember like waking up probably an hour, half an hour after I fell asleep and my dad just being like, it's over, and just like absolutely losing it. Like I was the one that was like losing my mind. And I think after going to the VP's concession speech the next day, like the most upset people were young women. Um, and I think that's probably like a trend a lot of people have seen. Um, but I think like regarding my dad and I, it's just we saw things, we did things like no one else has ever done, or like very few people have ever done. And it was just like a really, really special time. And like I loved watching him like connect with people. He loves they call it the rope line. It's like after the events, they go and they meet people that are like standing, at the front, and
Mm-hmm.
like just watching him interact and like be handed bracelets and have people crying and telling them that they're so happy there's a teacher, or so happy that there's a girl dad, or like whatever it is, and say they feel like hope for the first time, was just like very, very special, and just like strengthened my motivation to like keep staying involved. And I think, I won't speak for him, but I think there were moments when people kind of embraced me and were like, it's so nice to see a young person on the trail, or someone who is normal. And
Yeah.
just like, I think him watching that with me and like recognizing that like he did okay with me was like a special moment for him. And like he told me after the election, he's like, hope regardless of the outcome, like it's obviously sad, but like having these 3 months with you like is something that like it's priceless. And so it's honestly been like hard for me to like not be home anymore. I'm like, oh, I miss him. You should come out here. Like,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
visit. So
I mean, I just can't imagine the grueling schedule, like day in and day out. It feels, I mean, I'm telling you, you're living it or you've lived it,
yeah,
but just being able to have each other in that is like
totally.
priceless. And I think about that moment at the DNC. You probably know where I'm
Yeah.
going with this, where he's like shouting out, your mom and you and your precious brother. I'm sitting at home watching it. I'm just like sobbing because I feel like there was such a deep empathy that could be like, it was like tangible in
Yeah.
your family. What was that like for you? Just seeing everyone, like you said, like just embrace you.
Yeah, it was super special. That was, I want to say, like 2, 3 weeks after he had gotten in the race. And like after the first night in Philly, like this was really his like next big moment. And it was like the biggest moment. Um, and I remember just like getting ready, and I have some tattoos, and my mom like doesn't mind when other people have tattoos. She minds when I have tattoos. But I figured the day of my dad's speech was a great day to tell her that I have almost an entire like half sleeve, because there was so much going on. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect. She can't be mad at me. And so I told my dad, and before we leave, this is like 30 minutes before we leave, I'm like, okay, dad, you have to tell mom I have tattoos because my dress shows tattoos. So he's like, oh, okay. So he goes, Gwen, and I'm like not in the room. He's like, Gwen, Hope has tattoos. And then he texts me, he's like, all right, it's done. Good luck. And I walk in my blue dress, and she's like, what are those? And I'm like, well, they're my tattoos. But there was no time for her to be mad. And so like up until the very moment, we're just like the most like reality TV family you could ever think of in this position. We're like, what is happening? And but then we go, and it's like he's the last speaker of the night, and I just get anxious when he speaks, because I think with like just the swirl of media and everything in today's world, like everything you say is like nitpicked down to like, I won't say a ridiculous point, but like to a point where it's like, it's on, what do you even say? Like there's always something. And that's them doing their job. But like, I still get a little anxious, especially knowing my dad is just like a Midwest dad talker. Like he is so incredibly smart and intelligent, but like he just talks like a regular person does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people on the political stage aren't used to that. So I just was very anxious, and I'm just like, I hope this goes well. And like he was so prepared. Like if there's something he does well, it's like is he does the work. Um but just in that moment, I didn't really know how I was going to react, honestly. And then just seeing my brother start crying and my mom crying, and I'm there with all my aunts and cousins. It was just, I think, a wave of emotion. And I think we were all just like so proud of him and proud of our family. And watching Gus kind of have that moment was very special. He's not typically a very emotional kid. Um, So when he did that, it's like, okay, like this is really like a family thing that we're doing. And like we made this decision as a family. And it was just very special to kind of like see that and have people embrace us and embrace him.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. The eldest daughter is jumping out of you with the
Yeah.
dad, tell mom about the tattoo because you're about to go on stage and we can't argue about it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about my world, which is like a microcosm of yours. Like there's certain things that you cannot do or say, like security things, right? And so I can't imagine that being like scaled up for like a secret service level. Did you
Yeah.
have to like pause social media? Like what was that like in terms of like things you had to stop doing while you were on the trail?
Yeah, well, I didn't like make any of my accounts public or didn't like really start posting until after the election, and that was like I it was a security thing. It was also just like there's so much attention. It's not worth me potentially like saying something that could be twisted or like whatever it may be. So like my family and just everyone around me kind of we made that decision like okay, you wait until election day and then you can kind of do what you need or want to do. um, and so like there was that and that was okay. It was just like a big switch because I like am a fairly independent person and then all of a sudden I had like security around me all the time. Um, but I think like it was a lot, but I think you just like sort of adjust to it. And I was very much in the mode like I want to win, so I'm going to do what I'm told and I'm going to like just be kind of the best surrogate I can be or whatever I needed to be in that moment. Um and so I honestly like didn't think very much of it. I'm like, okay, well this is where we're at and I'm just going to like deal with it.
I love that. You're such like a your family's so down to earth and humble. I'm curious, did you ever envision yourself like, okay, when we get to the White House, you know, if this is the outcome that happens, like what does that even look like? You know, like that's just such a crazy shift, I feel like, from your day to day.
Yeah, I honestly tried not to think about it. I was like if we get to this point, I will deal with it then. And I'm very grateful I did it that way because like it saved me probably like a lot of heartbreak, but also like selfishly there is some like relief, not relief that we lost, but like relief in the fact that not everything in my life is changing. I am back in my, where I live and I can go to my jobs without a security presence, which at the shelter, I didn't really feel comfortable bringing like
Ah,
law enforcement type presence in because there is a lot of trauma with the guests. Um, and so like those things I don't have to worry about obviously would have been very worth it for me to deal with that stuff to have a president Kamala Harris. Um, so yeah, it kind of just I blocked it out until it like became what it was.
mm-hmm.
And I am grateful for that. I saw like a quote a couple days ago and what was it? It was like be where your feet are.
Oh,
So like be where you're at in this moment. And my dad and I talked about that a lot and we're like we're in this moment and we're doing what we need to do and when if things change, we'll deal with it.
I love that. My therapist always tells me be where your feet are. And I'm like, sis, don't you know that's
Yeah.
hard for
It's
me?
hard though. It's hard because it's like, oh, what would this look like? Or oh, what would that look like? But I really, really tried not to think about it.
Yeah, that's so amazing. So, okay, you are going through this whirlwind. You said you went to bed early the night where, you know, we're seeing the results come in. I assume you're at like a watch party or some sort of gathering,
Yeah.
right? Like you weren't doing this at home.
We were at a hotel in DC. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So you go to bed, your dad's like, okay, it's over. What does processing even begin to look like for you?
I called, he wasn't even my boyfriend at the time, but I called my boyfriend and I was like, okay, so I need to figure out a way to get home and my car's in Minnesota. So you have to fly out this Friday. It was Tuesday. This Friday and we're going to drive back. Like my initial thing was like, okay, like this is what it is and I have to get back and like do the work where I'm at. Um which obviously like after I had taken a little time I was able to slow down, but like bless his heart, he booked a flight that night
Oh,
and like then was there on Friday and like did the whole thing and it was great. And he's amazing and like just sat with me as I was like hysterically crying, like, you need to come and I need to get back to work at the shelter and like do this and that. Um, but like I was I won't say forced, but like the campaign and my parents just really gave everyone a place to like sit with it for a little bit. And then obviously we had to go to the concession speech, which was like one of the most beautiful speeches I've ever heard. Um, and like that was maybe the hardest thing I've ever done. And my dad's like, don't cry if you can help it. And we walk out and like he's like, all right, just do what you have to do, because there was no way I wasn't. And we're there with the VP's family, who are all amazing and inspiring. And we do that. And then we head back to Minnesota like that night. And I sign off on my Secret Service because my wonderful, wonderful Secret Service lead at the time, you have two at a time, but one of them I got super close with. She lived in DC. And I'm just like, okay, there's no reason for you to fly to Minnesota and then go back to DC tomorrow. Like, I'm okay. And so I signed off on my Secret Service. And then all of a sudden, like, it's just you again, which is like, kind of a crazy thing. But I remember it was my first TikTok video, like the next day or something. My brother and I I think we went to get fountain soda or something in our own cars for the first time. And so I just like, to me, I was like, I need to get back to like my life. And then when the time comes, I'll like think about next steps.
Can we, not to make this about your boyfriend, I don't want to make him uncomfortable, but shout
No,
out
you're
to
good.
him. Like, he
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, he's great. I got very lucky. We're still like pretty early on. But he's amazing. Like, he was there through it all. And he's a swing state voter. And so even before like we started really talking, I'm like, all right, you're in Arizona, you got to vote. And he's like, of course, of course. So he's just been great and was like a great support system. And there's been comments and they're like, I hope your dad likes him. My dad loves him. He's like, hope he's amazing. You have to keep him around. So I'm very lucky. Out of like everything that came out of this like campaign season, he is a bright light, I will say.
I'm so happy to hear that. And it gives me hope that there's men out there that inform their own opinion and
Yes.
regarding your TikTok yesterday aren't listening to Joe Rogan. So that brings me hope. I love that. So, okay, so you're back home, you're with your thoughts, I mean, which I'm sure is a whole other podcast, but I want to briefly hit on online criticism and just coming online and seeing all that. I think the most heartbreaking thing for me when I go online and see things about my brother, which mind you is like the smallest scale compared to what,
but it's still there. Like, people get so involved in sports. Like, I can't even imagine some of the things. Like,
okay, yeah, exactly. But it's just like knowing that things that are being said are false, are slanderous, are all these things, and knowing that either one, if I say something, I'm not going to be taken seriously, maybe, or two, should I even say anything, you know? And so I'm curious what that's been like for you and just navigating the internet.
Yeah, it's definitely a transition for me. Like, it has been a thing for like a long time. This criticism that I've seen towards my dad or my mom or my family, it obviously ramped up when he was like picked to be the VP nominee. And I'm very grateful that like the past couple of years, I've really like done the work to get to a point where I either don't even look at it. Like, I don't have X. I refuse to have anything to do with that. Like, I had deleted Twitter when it was Twitter. Like, I don't want to see it, because while there are a lot of like valid criticisms to be had, and I think you need to hear those and listen to those and learn and grow from them, if it's just a straight up lie, that is more of a reflection on the people saying it than it is you. And it really like is not worth your energy. So I had gotten to a point even before we were thrown into the national spotlight of like, if it's not true and if it's not like valid, it's not even worth my time or my energy. And so like, I'm very grateful for that, because if I had been me 4 years ago in this position, it would have been very different. And so that's like something I'm like, oh, thank gosh, I've like done that work to get here, because I think I would have probably gotten us all in a little bit more trouble.
My brother was like stop responding. Like, it's
Yeah.
fine. Like, chill
Yeah.
out. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
It's
okay.
hard though because like you love this person and you care about this person and you're just seeing all of this horrible stuff when they don't even like know you or want to even like listen to what you have to say. But
Yes.
that's exactly why I'm just like it's not worth my time or energy.
And I love that. I think I noticed when you first started posting on TikTok, like your comments were off, and I was like, period. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing to protect your own mental sanity is the right decision. So,
Yes.
in that lane, how are you actively doing that now, like protecting your peace? I know you seem like a big ski girl, maybe like a nature
Yeah.
gal. Talk to me about all that.
Yeah, so I love to ski. It's like my favorite thing in the whole world. I ski instruct in the winter. So I spend
Oh,
time with kids and adults alike teaching them, which is I love. It's like a very kind of different lens of change for like from working at the shelter, but I'm a believer in like spending time outside and like grounding yourself in nature is like great at finding your own peace as well as like finding motivation to protect the planet, which is like maybe the number one issue in the coming years. So I love like being able to share that because skiing and the outdoor industry in general are very inaccessible. It's like all rich white people, and that is like a very bothersome thing because access to the outdoors in our like national parks or whatever it may be should not only be accessible to rich white people. Um, and so like going forward, I'm like hoping I can kind of step into that space a little bit because I love sharing my passion for skiing. It's like it is like the most fun thing in the world. Have you ever skied?
girl, I bought a ski suit in April and I went to
Cute.
Denver. It's so cute. I'll send you a pic. But I like went to Denver to take pics. But I was gonna say, I was like amazed. I was the only black person I saw. And I
Yes.
was like, I felt so no one was trying to make me feel othered, but I did feel super out of
Yes.
place. So it's really
Yes.
interesting you say that.
Yes. It is like a very exclusive industry, skiing in general, as well as just like the outdoors, like hiking, climbing, all of it.
Mm.
Um, and like it that's super problematic in itself. And like we that needs to change and like I will say like what I'm doing isn't necessarily doing that directly, but I do think like teaching people a new skill and like learning how to teach people this skill is like I love it and it's made me a better skier in my own right and like I like to ski hard stuff and so like it's been awesome and I met some of my best friends doing it and it's yeah.
Oh. That's so amazing. And no, I feel like you are making a difference, even just by like acknowledging. Sorry, I was about to say holding space, and then that, like, I don't know if you know what
Yeah.
holding space means. So let me switch that up.
Yeah.
Just like acknowledging, like, hey, you are seen, you're valid. Like, I'm happy you're trying
Yeah.
new skill. All of that's amazing. And something I notice is like on the slopes, like business conversations are happening. And so, like me being a
Yes.
corporate girly, I'm like, me not skiing, I could be missing out on a promotion. I could it, like it is that
It's
serious.
like golf in that way.
Exactly. Outdoors is a human
Yes.
thing, and like everyone
Yeah.
should have access to that.
Yes. Well, if you ever want to ski, I will teach you. You can come and I'll teach you,
Don't even
which
offer me that hope because this
which
seems
will
so
be fun.
I would love to. I'm like honestly, I would. What's it called? The bunny slopes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bunny
Yeah.
slopes?
We
Yeah.
say the magic carpet because like it doesn't matter what you're skiing because you're still skiing. So
Oh,
the magic carpet.
okay, that's what I need. I will take you up on your offer. You're so sweet. So, as we kind of wrap up, like, how have you seen yourself grow in 2024? Like, as you think about the whirlwind of a year that you had, like, what are you
Yeah.
most proud of yourself for?
Yeah, I think it's happened like throughout the entire year. I think I'm just like at an age where there's a lot of change. I'm going to be 24 in January. And I'm now like over a year out from like graduating and now like looking towards, you know, grad school or whatever like kind of my next steps are. um but I've just gained so much confidence and I will attribute a lot of that to the past like 3 months. I think when you have photos taken of you from like every angle and like everything you say is analyzed and like articles written about you that like say things you're like I didn't even know I said that a year ago or like whatever it may be, and like when you're just family in general is under like such an intense spotlight, I think it really makes you like look inward and kind of realize who you are and like what you stand for. And I know that happened to me. And it really just like allowed me to kind of gain this confidence in who I am and like where I'm at right now and just like be proud of myself almost. Um, I think like everything that's happened is like, I won't say like what's meant to be will be because I really don't think that what happened in the beginning of November was meant to be. But it's our reality and like just kind of accepting that and being like, this is where I'm at. And like, I have wonderful people around me and in my community. And like, I'm going to do the work there has been like a very freeing feeling. And I'm like sort of joking when I say this, but like when half the country objectively like hates you and your family, you kind of just have to like let things go. Like when people say things to me, it's like, okay, well, that's how you feel. And I know who I am. And I'm going to stick to that because, like, that's a reflection of you, not me. So that confidence has been like a very, very special thing to like see grow within myself.
Ugh. I like know we just met, but I'm just like so proud of you. Like I just feel like
Hmm.
maybe it's because I just turned 24 in October. Happy early birthday, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so 24 gang. But I just feel like we have so much in front of us, and the fact that you're at this
Yeah.
place right now, I know not every day is perfect, and there are days you probably have to drag yourself out of bed, but like
Yeah.
just the fact that you can be here and be present and like stand firm in who you are is beautiful. I like do want to ask how insane is it to have pictures taken of you from every angle? Because I know on my Instagram you'll never see me from this side.
Yeah.
Like you will always see me from the left side.
Yeah. Yeah, it like I told myself once my dad was picked, I'm like, what I look like from a certain angle or like in a photo, that's not my business. I can't worry about that or I'll drive myself crazy. And so like had just accepted it. And I'm like, honestly, if people are like calling me ugly and making fun of my looks, it doesn't matter what I look like. They were going to do it anyways. So like whatever. Like that was like like past what I could even worry about.
You're like, we're literally trying to save the country. I really can't
Yeah.
worry about if it's from the right or left side. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I love that. I'm so inspired. And I think once the results came in, my first thought immediately was like, I hope that Kamala Harris is okay. And I think that a
Yeah.
lot of women shared that sentiment. I'm sure you heard that a lot.
Yeah.
It sounds like you and her and like your family, all of you just feel so confident in the future and so
Yeah.
settled. And like we did all that we could. And like we're really proud of what we've done. And I think that that helps confront a lot of the fear that the country's facing. And so thank you, because I know
Yeah.
you're getting comments of people that are scared and like just terrified
Yeah.
and like probably putting a lot on you, honestly. And so I just want to thank you for like just being able
Yeah.
to, you shouldn't have to shoulder that, but you really are setting such like
Yeah.
a calming presence with it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think like it obviously wasn't perfect and there are things that should have been done differently, but I think in the end, like people saw that it was like a joyful, progressive message for the country and that's just not the direction we decided to go this time. Which is unfortunate, but like I do think like everyone sees so much hope for the future as like scary as it is and as hard as it may get in the past 4 year or in the next 4 years. Um like there is like work to be done on the ground level and then in 28 we like hopefully come at it fixing the mistakes we made in 24 um and can like move this message and like joyfulness forward.
Yeah. Your name being Hope, I mean, is there anything more fitting? Why were you named Hope? Do you know?
Yeah, my dad talked about it a little bit on the campaign trail. I was like I was it not IVF but like something else,
Hmm.
some sort of like fertility treatment. I guess they didn't think my mom was going to be able to get pregnant and then they did. And it was like kind of their hope. And I will say I learned this on the campaign trail when my dad gave the speech. So which was funny. So like it was always a thing for my parents, but I think they never just like put that on me. Cuz I think they just wanted me to be my own person and whatever, but yeah, that's the story and I'm when people say that like it's a fitting name, that makes me hopeful.
Okay, last question. Any
Yeah.
advice we always end with for, the Do I Know You audience? It's really about,
Yeah,
celebrating identity just through our lens, but it's
totally.
a message for everyone. So how would you encourage, let's do like young girls who are feeling like just really uncomfortable about owning who they are. How would you encourage them?
Yeah, well, I want to start off and be like, say I'm like very privileged, and there are definitely challenges for me, like being out about who I am. But like I am definitely coming from like a place of privilege. And I think for a lot of young people, we are pretty good at like recognizing that space of privilege and then using that to, have those tough conversations. Like like speak directly to, white women. Like we have to have conversations with our people if we want to like create a better future and win elections in, the future, or like just kind of overarching, just like sort of recognizing where your place is and then how you can do that work is very freeing for your own identity. Like I recognize that a lot of my audience it's probably just women in general. Um and just like being proud of that voice that you have and then creating space for others to like have that voice. Like it's not, I never want to speak for Black women. That's not my place, but I hope going forward that me and like other white women can like create this space, and I will say hold space for like voices of people that are like very much affected. um and I think just like leaning into who you are and that voice that you have, no one is going to agree with you 100%, and if they do, you're probably wrong, honestly. um so like if you are like the outlier voice, like that's okay. Like stand in that, recognize that it's uncomfortable, but like know that we need these voices out there, and especially young women. Like we are the future generation, and like we need to stand together to move forward.
Ugh, that's a wrap. I mean, there's nothing else to
Yay.
say. Thank you, Hope.
Yeah.
You are a beacon of light, hope for, I think,
Yay.
a lot of Gen Z, honestly. And I just really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you so much. I look up to you so much. This is like such a cool space, and like I feel so seen, and I really appreciate you. And I am going to make you come ski, like for real.
Babes, I'm already getting a
Good.
ski suit out the closet. I'm
Good.
telling you. But thank you so much.
Good.
Every once in a while on Do I Know You, I'll do an interview, and then the rest of the day I can't stop smiling. This is one of those interviews for me because of what you just saw. I mean, there is nothing more beautiful than raw, vulnerable honesty, and that's what we just got, and that is rare. That is so rare. And so thank you so much, Hope, for coming on. You are an absolute gem. I'm going to dust off my ski suit and come to you, girl, and we're going to ski down. But I just really, really, really am so inspired by you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to all of you for watching. I hope you feel hopeful, no pun intended. I hope you feel just like re-energized, not even for the country, but just whatever it is that you're chasing after, like one step at a time. And I think something that really resonated with me was how Hope is very big on like start small, like start in your community, because that's how you get that outsized impact. And so the same thing for your dreams, for your calling, for whatever, for however it looks like to claim your identity in this journey that we're all on, like start small. What can you do today, right now, where you are? That's the right decision. So I love you all. I adore Hope. I love America. God bless America for giving us Hope Walz. No, honestly, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure that you subscribe so that way you never miss an episode. There is so much coming to you in 2025. It's all sitting on my computer. It's just a matter of uploading it. So I'm so excited to share with you. This year is going to be absolutely chef's kiss. Thank you all so much. Remember that you are more than enough as you are. God loves you. I love you. You have people around you that love you. And that's really what this is all about. So cheers to you, y'all. Mwah. Bye.